In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey everyone, how you doing? Well, I'm still having some problems with my camera. I'm been trying to download an updated version for Windows 11, and it's just not been going as great as I hope. So sorry about the quality here for today, but welcome as you're at Surviving Together. It is Laugh Saturday. We're a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and heal and their connect and build community on their healing journey, as well as providing trauma-related education for all, except the first Saturday of the month, Laugh Saturday. And I've got some funny stories from the ER. Thank you to Crystal, who is here today. Thank you, Crystal. Tommy, I'm glad you're here. Hope you have a great afternoon as well. And I've tried to pick ones that aren't gross, that aren't I mean, there were some touching ones or just some kind of weird ones. I tried to find something that at least cracked a smile for me. So hopefully they will for you guys too. Any other news I have before we get started? I don't think so. Book chapter is pretty much done. I did get some feedback, and I am going to spend the rest of today doing some more edits and then sending it in again. And then that should be it for at least a couple of weeks before the professional editors get it back for me. So cross your fingers, and we'll hope for the best for that. So I am actually going to be reading from my page that I put these all together on. So if it looks like I'm not checking in with the chat, you'll understand why. But I will attempt to minimize it every once in a while and see who else we have here who's joined us for the day. Hoping we get a few more people trickling in. And let me pull up my document. Trackpad isn't the greatest. Which actually I am going to, give me 1 second, guys. Since that camera feed wasn't working, I'm switching over to my mouse. So that can be, there we go. Be a little easier for me to go through my document here. So I've pulled these from all different sources, some from Reddit, some, I think a few are Reader's Digest even, just some different sites that I've found with these. You know, I was going to play you guys some videos. There was some that were off of YouTube that had some stories, but a lot of them got pretty redundant, so I decided not to. This first story is out of New York, and yeah, as with a lot of the stories, again, I tried not to do ones that were kind of like repeat of the same themes. On this one, you just kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. That was the reason. That was the reason why. Anyway, this woman, Rebecca Lee, who is a registered nurse in New York, says that she has the story of a gentleman who came into the emergency room complaining of extreme rectal pain and a foreign body that had lodged itself there. It turned out to be the leg of a wooden stool. How it got there, he said he fell onto it when it was upside down and it got stuck in him. He asked us not to tell his wife. Possible? Is possible. Whether or not it's the actual the way things happened, I don't know. You guys will have to determine that for yourself. This next one is one patient came into the emergency room convinced that his arm had been lopped off in a farming accident. He gestured to his left side and insisted it was true. We were all sitting around the ER looking at one another skeptically because although the man did seem a bit lost and out of it, surely this wasn't true. But when they took the blanket away, he clutched his shoulder as they pulled it away, his arm came with it. And he goes, "Told you so." Like, oh. It appeared to me from the story that essentially because they could see his hand, but they were like, "You've still got your arm." I was like, that was kind of a little more grisly. I think that's probably one of the grisliest ones that I pulled out. This is something from way back. Someone remembered. So keep it in mind, all right? Keep in mind. So this is from 1974, all right? This person wrote, when I was an orderly while attending nursing school, we had a gentleman brought in who'd been injured in a car wreck. He needed facial surgery and a jaw wiring. Evans noticed that the man's wife seemed anxious. He could also tell that they were not financially well off. Finally, just before the wiring of the guy's jaw was to take place, the wife spoke up, asking Evans if they could please remove her husband's dentures. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, that's such an odd request. I was thinking they'd say, could you just, keep it wired or something of that nature? No, it turns out that they shared dentures, which they had actually purchased secondhand from the local funeral director. And Tommy, that is from your great state of New Jersey. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I just wanted to see who else popped in. We've got William from Brooklyn is here. Hello, hello, hello. Chris still lurking at work. Mysterious Mayo is here as well. Thank you for being here. And Indigo, who is here. Yeah, I read a lot of the objects up the bum stories, and there were numerous ones, lots and lots of them. That is just wild. Indigo says there's a guy in the UK who had to have who had to have a grenade removed from his bum. Those aren't small. That just hurts thinking about it. I did omit, there were several that people had put some things up their penises, and I just couldn't, even as a female, I couldn't read them without cringing. So I decided to leave those ones off. Ay, 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 ay. So this one's I don't think it's, no, it still doesn't tell me what state this one's from, but it was Christmas Eve. So all of the walk-in clinics and the doctor's offices were closed, everything but the emergency room. I had hurt myself at work and had to be that person who goes to the ER for a doctor's note to excuse me from my job until I could get the injury taken care of. Otherwise, there's no way I could go to work without it. I was left in the waiting room for quite a while while they took care of the more urgent cases. So my dad and I were people watching. Most of the people were pretty calm and resigned to the purgatory that is the waiting room. That is, except for one gentleman, roughly 35 years of age, who would agitatedly stomp around the room before approaching the receptionist, demanding she get him a bed. Each time, she politely directed him to take a seat. This happened a few more times before he finally gave a scream of frustration and stomped out of the ER. His wife got up and followed him, stopped to apologize to the receptionist, and calmly announced, "It's my husband's first time trying edibles. He's not handling it very well." I'm still not sure exactly why they were there, but apparently he felt he was having some issues. I'm just wondering if they were lacing it with anything else. Oh my goodness. This next one is kind of, it's I'm stuttering here because it's like, is this really true, or is this just one of those stories that somebody like wrote as a joke, right? It says, I work in the emergency room, and the one that left me dumbfounded was a woman who was brought in by her sister for pelvic cramps and the fact that she hadn't had her period for 3 months. Lo and behold, she was pregnant. I asked if they had any questions. The sister said that the patient sleeps with the Brazilian construction workers who are building the condo complex next door. The patient asked, "Will my baby come out speaking Spanish?" After a long pause and her sister staring at the ceiling, I told her, "No, because they speak Portuguese in Brazil." The patient seemed relieved. It's like, I included that one simply because if it is true, kudos on the nurse for an excellent retort. I just got to say, I think that was a pretty good retort. Audrey, have I read the book The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat? No, I have not. I have been so involved. Is that the book you, like a few weeks ago? I think you recommended a book a few weeks ago to me, and I'm not sure if that's the book or if you're just asking in general if I've ever read the book. But no, I have not. Okay, who do we have next? One thing I did leave out, and let me ask you guys about this. Just and if you guys have any experiences that you want to throw out there in the comments, please do. There was a whole slew of the reasons why people ended up in the ER, like who shouldn't be in the ER, who should have just gone to a doctor's appointment or whatnot. And lots of people being brought by ambulance for things that did not require an ambulance to be bringing them. Lots of cases of head lice, which being brought by ambulance, which I just don't understand. I mean, and I understand some people, they don't have transportation, and so depending on their insurance, they might get covered for an ambulance visit versus having to get themselves there another way. I get that. There was lots of people just complaining of colds or just wanted to get medication refilled. People coming in for things like one woman wanted to get her kids checked for snake bites, and they hadn't been bitten. They had just heard reports that it was snake bite season. And so as a precaution, I guess, she wanted to have the kids checked out. Scratching my head on that one. Another one, a girl stepped in dog poop, and they wanted her to get checked out to see if she, could possibly have an infection. Mind you, she had her shoes on when she stepped in it, and the mother threw the shoes away. It's just some of the people and their logic are just. There were a number of people who, very entitled, who, complaining that they've been waiting hours to be seen, and people kept going in front of them and whatnot. And so they would complain of chest pains, in order to get seen sooner. And well, for liability, if you're complaining of the chest pains, then the doctor's gonna, do up a service on all of that. And I mean, depending on what your insurance is going to cover, I mean, this visit could end up costing you a heck of a lot more than if you had just sat your butt down for a few more hours and just, waited to be seen. Several people who were getting agitated because they hadn't been seen for a while, and so they actually went outside and called an ambulance. Like one person just walked down the block and called an ambulance and got the ambulance to take her the block to the hospital. But because she wasn't life-threatening, she still had to wait in the lobby. And bless those nurses, they just said, well, because you left the hospital grounds, then you lost your place in line. So now you got to start all over again. I thought that's good. That's good. Ambulances are expensive. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a bill for an ambulance. I mean, a long time. And thousands and thousands of dollars. I remember one time they took a tissue sample from a procedure that was done. And I don't remember if this is for myself or my husband at the time. It was nothing life-threatening. They just wanted to do a biopsy on it. There were no concerns. We didn't need to get the results back in the next 24 hours. I mean, nothing urgent about it. and they took it by ambulance. Now, if they had a lot of other things going to the same place that actually needed the ambulance and they just decided to hop it on there, that's fine, but you don't get to charge me an ambulance fee for it. And we certainly didn't request that it go by ambulance to this testing facility. I'm like, put it on some ice and, drive it over across town or whatever. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, they tried to charge us like $3,000 or something like this, and this is 15 years plus. It was insane. Oh, see, Indigo, I'm thinking 600 to get to the ER. That's actually pretty reasonable. Literally, that ambulance bill was like $3,000. And I don't I mean, it could have been to a lab across the state. It could have been like over in Detroit or something, which is possible, but I was just like, if you had told me you were going to put it by, I would have driven it there myself. You don't get to make that kind of decision for me. Not when there's no urgent need for it to get there within like the next 3 hours or something. Just totally ridiculous. Hey Kim, how you doing? Oh no. Did you break your foot? Oh, I'm glad you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. Wow. Canada, your bill is about 400, you think? Well, and I'm talking here in the US, so I just know that they are just crazy, crazy expensive. And that definitely wasn't the first time I had seen it. Seen a bill like that. All right, let's see. What do we have next? Okay, so this person says, my sister is an ER nurse and likes to tell stories about one of her coworkers who always has a smart answer ready for any situation. A notorious problem in the ER is that when people come in for things that aren't actual emergencies and then complain when they're put at low priority. That was something in researching for these stories that I came across so much. Remember, like I said, entitled people, right? Because during a very busy day, this nurse is hurrying through a waiting room and is stopped by a man. The man says, hello, nurse. This is taking too long. I've been waiting for almost 2 hours. The nurse says, congratulations. Good for you. Man says, what is that supposed to mean? Means you're not in danger of dying anytime soon. See you in another couple hours. That is good response. Definitely, that is a good response. So this next one, guys, I didn't know whether to laugh or be offended. And one, I have no context as to what year this is from, so who knows on that. But it was one of those. It did let me. I was shaking my head on this. This is while out and about. I face planted on some stairs and cut my face badly. After the usual attempts to stop the bleeding, I realized this is worse than I thought. So my husband and I head to the nearest urgent care clinic for some stitches. When I see this doctor, he starts to clean and prep the cut. The doctor says, I'm going to do as few stitches as I can, my thinnest sutures. It'll barely scar. You won't even be able to tell. Me? Oh, okay, great. The entire time he works, he reiterates that it won't scar over and over. Around the fifth time, I'm starting to get a little annoyed. I'm sure he sees a lot of people, specifically women, who are anxious about the scarring, but I never once expressed any kind of concern about it. I don't care if I walk out of there looking like the Joker, as long as it stops the bleeding and prevents infection. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's a talker who just gets stuck in a loop and doesn't like to work in silence. So as he's finishing up, the doctor says, "So, not to worry, you'll barely notice a scar." Me, "Well, if I do have a scar, then it'll be a badge of honor, right?" The doctor says, startled, "But that's what we tell the boys." I just want to cry in my cereal on that. It just makes my heart hurt. Hey, Kevin, what's up? How are you doing today? Thank you for sharing this out. I'm really grateful that you did that. Thank you so much. Sorry, just looking back through your comments real quick, guys. All right, this one's a little bit longer. And I'm going to pause in between the statements. So instead of saying patient me, you'll know that I'm switching persons just by the pause. It just makes it flow a little bit better, I think. So this person wrote, "I'm the charge nurse at a huge emergency room. It's a holiday and we're very busy. The secretary comes to me and says there's a phone call from somebody who just got discharged. The caller is yelling about 911 and saying they have a major emergency. I drop what I'm doing and take the call. Patient, you need to call 911. Call them right now. Me, what is going on? What's the emergency? I just spent all day in your ER. I had such a bad headache and they had to give me medication and an IV. Okay, what's happening now? The medicine made me so drowsy and they told me not to drive home, so I called a taxi. They dropped me off at my house. Fine, but why are you talking about 911? If you need an ambulance, the caller interrupts and talks over me. Not an ambulance. You need to call 911. Call the police. They were here and they took my money and you need to tell them to give it back. What? You're telling me the police stole your money? The taxi driver called them. I told him I wasn't paying. I came from the hospital, so it should be free. He called the police and they came to my house and they said I had to pay for the fare. Who told you the cab ride would be free? Patient says, call the police, call the cab company, tell them the ride is free, give me my money back. Miss, I'm not in charge of the cab company. I'm not certain that, and I'm certainly not in charge of the police. And I don't even have your money. The patient yells an insult at me through the phone. If you don't give me my money back right now, I'm coming back there and people are going to get hurt. Me, oh, you just said the magic words. I'll call the police right away for you now. What's the address? The patient gave me her name and address. I hung up. I called 911 and reported that she'd made threats against the hospital. An hour later, the patient wound up back in my ER, this time in handcuffs. Apparently, when the police get to her house, she took a swing at them. They brought her here to get the taser darts removed. I never understand some people. I just don't. Hi, Kim. Mother's keeper, Kim, and we've got Kim. Yeah, don't take a swing at the cops. Definitely not. So this one made me laugh, and it's mainly because of what this nurse has to say at the very, very end of it. The facts in general, I mean, not so surprising as we talked. There's a lot of common things that you can end up with in different orifices. It says, I'm an ER nurse and it's Halloween. So we've been getting some rather colorful patients. I'm doing intake, and a group of gay men wearing animal costume approaches, all looking rather sheepish. One of them is wearing a towel around his midsection. Me, what's the reason you're here so I can give you the correct intake form? Man number one, well, my friend here wanted to wear a tail to the club, so he'd have the best costume. Me, okay. Man number one, and he wanted to make it like interactive with some guys at the club, and me picks up a specific form. Okay, so it's a removal procedure. Did he use lube? Man number one. Wait, how did you know? Me. Animal tail attached to a butt plug that gets stuck. Happens every Halloween. Man number two. So I'm not the first? Me. Oh, honey, you're not even the first tonight. And the nurse adds at the end, seriously, every damn Halloween. Oh, I found that pretty funny. You're not even the first tonight. I just can't even imagine how many, yeah, especially if like you're in a larger city or, in a bigger ER. Uh, oh, my mouse is not working. Wait, give me a second, guys. So listen closely on this one, guys. Okay. Listen closely to what I have to say, my word choices, and you'll follow along with me. This person says, I've been in the ER enough to know that there's no avoiding you're a woman, you must be pregnant song and dance, despite the multiple variables that stand in the way of me personally conceiving. I've started having fun with my answers. Nurse, is there any chance you might be pregnant? Me, nope. Are you sure? Positive. Unless, babe, did your lack of penis knock me up again? Wife, I gotta stop doing that. Good for them having some fun with it, right? Same person says, on another occasion, nurse, is there any chance you might be pregnant? Me, I'm on a few different birth controls, so I really hope not. Nurse, what method of birth control do you use? Me, I have an IUD and lesbianism. I really hope that second one still works. Oh. And apparently she used that same line at yet another visit. And she said at that point in time, the nurse actually replied, girl, me too. uh, I tell you, I mean, at least they're having some fun with it, right? Hello, Jimena. Hello, James. How are you guys doing? Oh, sorry, I gotta get readjusted here. My leg's killing me a little bit today, so. Yeah, there were a lot of I mean, of course, if you go in for some abdominal pain or, things of that nature, getting if you're a female, getting the are you pregnant question is, pretty matter of fact. But I was really surprised and appalled to be honest, with the amount of stories that were out there of people just totally getting dismissed, their issues getting dismissed, that um, their female issues getting dismissed. Going, are you sure you're not pregnant? I mean, just 100% positive, and I don't know, some of the circumstances, there must have been something, I'm kind of guessing, DeAudrey, like maybe where the patient was like really young or something, because um, several of them were just mentioning being really, really upset. But some people just, who were having issues, and either cramping or bleeding or things like that, and the doctors just totally dismissing it and being like, oh, it must be PMS, take some Idol, get a heating pad, just try this, that, or the other. And one time, I mean, the person had like endometriosis. Another time it was somebody had appendicitis. I mean, we're talking like some serious issues here. And they were just totally getting, written off as basically being hysterical about the pain that they were in. It just makes me shake my head. All right, let's see. Who do we have next? So, of course, there were a lot of vibrator stories out there, guys, and there were so many of them, and they were really repetitious. So I didn't put a number of them in. This one had a little bit of a twist on it, so it's the reason I picked this one out. The person writes, this is the patient speaking. I bought a vibrator. Hang on. I bought a vibrator from a well-known retailer. Decided to try it out, but it malfunctioned and caught fire, burning my flaps and causing pain like hell. I went to the A&E and waited to be seen by a nurse. The curtain opened, and it was my brother, the nurse on duty. I was mortified. I can only imagine. I don't know if I had an issue that I was like, like if I knew my family member worked somewhere and I had an issue where I would be like just mortified by something, that I would go there, because can you imagine if it was your dad, or I mean, same for a guy, I mean, lots of guys, whether, whether they're gay or not, if just they're playing around and get something stuck up their bum. I can't imagine, going in and the doctor comes in and it's like your mom. That would just be so horrid. Just so horrid. But yeah, her brother. Okay. I should have made these ones a little bit bigger. So I think that the next ones from here on out were from Reddit. I said, okay. We had one woman come back again, and her chief complaint was constipation. Going into her chart, I saw that she had been previously given some suppositories to take, and the triage note said her meds weren't working, so she wanted some different ones. So the doc is asking her questions, making sure nothing else is wrong, and they get to the part about the meds, and she says, yeah, well, the pills I got last time were huge. I had to break them in half in order to even swallow them. We then had to explain that the suppositories were not meant to be eaten, and that's why her medication wasn't relieving her symptoms. She thought suppository was the name of the medication, like Tylenol is for acetaminophen. Oh, yikes. Yikes. And I don't know if this is true across the board. And again, no timeline or, no date on it, so I don't know how long ago, but any suppository I've ever been made aware of are not solid like a pill. Oh, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine trying to eat one of those. Ah. Yucks, 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 yucks. Oh my goodness. It would be so gross, wouldn't it? Ah. All right. So the next one says, it was before I got into medical school. I was volunteering in the ER. I walked in one night and a tech was scrubbing a guy with road rash down his arm, body, and leg. It looked really painful, and I asked the patient what happened. He said, I was on my Harley and I was being chased by cops. I went around a corner, hit some gravel, and laid my bike down. I noticed the man's wife in the corner was rolling her eyes. The patient asked, how does that story sound? I said, sounds great, but what really happened? He said, I was on my scooter going downhill and I fell off. I just, I wonder on how many of those types of things you get people who embellish their accidents a little bit so that they still sound plausible, still sound like you got the injury that you got out of it, but just make it sound a little bit tougher. Hey, Gianni, what's going on? It's glad to see you. Yeah, yeah. She ate the suppositories. Or at least tried to at least swallow them like pills. Still probably be shuddering for the rest of the day with regards to that one. So this one made me laugh, but then I gotta go, okay, kudos for you guys for trying to keep it, entertaining and fresh in the bedroom. So this is a story of an older man. What that means, I don't exactly know, but let's just use our imaginations on that. Who was brought into the ER unconscious and dressed in a Batman costume. Evidently, he and his wife were role playing, and he attempted to jump off the dresser onto the bed, slipped, and hit his head. Uh, I do have the vision of a little bit older of a couple of at least my age or older, let's just say 50 or older. Uh, most people's dressers aren't that far apart from their beds for one. And yeah, that mental image just certainly made me laugh. So this is one of those, okay, it's not funny. It's funny in a horrendous way, but it's definitely not uncommon. I would say in terms of different stories that I've heard of people who are substance users. This was written by a mother baby nurse. Said got a patient in about 45 minutes after delivery, emergency C-section due to a placental abruption. asked her about what led up to coming to the hospital, and she said, "Oh, I figured I was in labor and I wanted to get all my coke gone before she came. Figured I wouldn't have time after she was born." Nurse said I was equal parts horrified and confused. But I'll tell you, that is not the first type of story that I've read like that, where it's, like people going to jail. And so they just decide to do all the drugs that they possibly have. Um, and, different things like that, where it's just like, no common sense. No common sense. Hey, Tiff, what's going on? Glad to see you. Batman. Um, yeah, that was a little bit of a downer, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I don't know why I decided to include that. Maybe it was just because of the story about the other stories that I had read. No worries, Jimena. No worries, no worries, no worries. All right. What do we have next? Let's see. Okay. So, and this is something I would expect out of somebody who's drugged out of his mind. I worked nights as an ER nurse. One night, about 20 minutes into my shift, a day nurse said nonchalantly, "Hey, there's a naked guy outside. I need you to help me get him in." I'm like, "Yeah, right. Haha." And she's like, "No, I'm serious." Not too far out of the ambulance doors is a guy soaking wet, wearing absolutely nothing but a button up shirt, which is unbuttoned. We have no idea why he's wet, but he's staggering all over the place and talking about a plane crash. So I run back inside to get way more help and gloves. It took about 6 of us to get this dude into a wheelchair and into the ER. I gave him a B-52, which I guess is a shot of Benadryl, Haldol, and Ativan, which knocked him out after about 10 minutes or so. He was tall and pretty well built. He didn't look like a meth head, and he didn't smell like alcohol. His head CT and tox screen were negative. He was admitted for observation, though. Turns out he had a cold, so he took some cough syrup, and then had his usual nightly couple of beers. Went to walk his dog, and he blacked out, fell into a canal, and that explains why he was soaking wet. We're still not sure about the plane crash, though. I can only imagine that this is from when they used to put way more fun things in your cough syrup than they do now for over the counter. So I have to imagine that is from years ago, because I don't see any, at least not in the US. Let me put it that way. At least not in the US. I don't know. If you're not in the US, do they still put alcohol in your cough syrup? Because they've taken it out of all of the cough syrup that gets made in the US. I remember Vicks 44 was the last one that was on the market. And that was like years after they took it out of the other ones, but they still had it in the Vicks. And so the drunks who couldn't afford alcohol would buy the Vicks, which nowadays would be more expensive than cheap alcohol, to be honest with you. A little whiskey takes your tooth pain away. It's funny that you should say that, because I do remember my grandmother saying that she would actually rub a little whiskey on my brother's gums when he was teething. When he was like, a year or so old. Pretty horrified at that. I mean, nowadays you definitely don't, but yeah, pretty horrified. Alcohol So you guys still have alcohol and cough syrup in Canada. Interesting. Yeah, you get definitely for regular allergy meds you don't but they if you try and buy like more of a certain amount, like I think like the 96 count box, they'll card you for it. And Actifed, before they took that off the market, um, and before they put it behind the counter, and you'd get carded for that. And I only knew about using that kind of stuff for the manufacture of meth because of working for the Court of Appeals, because I'd read transcripts and they would talk about the different cooking methods or whatever. And some of the cops would, depending, what the case was. So I knew that there were several different methods, and that's the only reason I knew. And I remember being at the grocery store once, and I had tried to get Actifed because it was the only thing that would work for when my sinus headaches were getting really, really bad. And they didn't have it at the one place I was at. And the gal in front of me was trying to buy like a lot of Sudafed, and they'd only let her buy like a 24 pack or something. And you did have to produce your card. Oh, I guess for regular Sudafed, yeah. If it's the regular Sudafed and not the Sudafed PE, you still do have to show your ID. So I went to another store to see if I could get the Actifed that I want, and lo and behold, I get the same chick is in line with me again, and she's trying to buy, more of it. I was it was the first time I'd ever like really come face to face with that in person. It was pretty weird. All right, who else we got? Okay. I included this one. Oh, this is a different one. Anyway, okay. So this person says, I was 14, and as usual, I was hanging out with my friends at the municipal park in the summer. All of a sudden, my mother pulls up, screeches to a halt, and yells, "Get in!" I could tell she was furious. I protested, and she said, "Your brother stabbed himself, and I need you to go with me to watch the other kids." So as we're driving to the ER, my mom tells me what happened. He had a knot in one of his tennis shoes and could not get it out. He had the bright idea to go get my dad's filleting knife from the garage. In attempting to cut it out, he managed to stab himself in the thigh, requiring stitches. So we get to the ER and we're all clustered around my mom and my brother as the intake person is taking our information. She asks my mom, "Do you know when and where his last tetanus shot was?" My mother just sighed deeply and said, "Yes, yesterday, here." The intake person couldn't help but laugh. Apparently, the brother had been taken to the ER just the day before for stitches because he'd been smacked in the mouth with a golf club during a safety lecture. I'm assuming a safety lecture at the golf club place. But can you imagine just being the mom of that kid and just being like, "Yeah, we were just here yesterday." I mean, I can imagine the mom being furious. Like, "I just had to take you there yesterday, and now you dumb idiot, you're there again." Um, I just, at least, I mean, I don't know how old the kid was, but I remember my brother being about, I think maybe 6 years old, 7 years old. and he was cutting comics out of the newspaper, Sunday funnies, right? And we were watching cartoons, and he had him on his lap, and he went to go cut the cartoon out and just went and stuck those scissors, sunk them straight into his thigh. I was standing nearby at the time, like, and I distinctly remember this happening. Thankfully, it wasn't too deep. I remember we didn't go to the hospital. I think he put a bandage on it or something, or maybe he got at least maybe he got a couple of stitches, but I don't even think that. I do distinctly remember him doing that, though. I was just amazed because I thought at the time I came home, like, I think like a couple weeks later, and was, it's those. My dad didn't have patience for people who didn't like think through things. And so it didn't matter if you were a kid or, older. So for him, it was, you're stupid. That's an idiotic move. Why in the hell would you do that on your lap like that? Right. And I only remember this because then I swear it was like a few weeks later, and a kid, this is in school, and the kid literally stapled his thumb. He went to go staple his papers and just went ka-thunk. Do you remember those big staplers? I mean, those are like industrial staplers, like had almost like those knobs on top. And so for kids, those were hard to push down. And so we would slam our hands on it. And I remember he just slammed his hand and yep, thumb, staple right in his thumb. Oh. All right, let's see. Yeah, seriously. Right. Luckily, he missed his femoral artery. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. It'd just be absolutely insane. And that is the last one I pulled out. That is just on an hour, guys. That was pretty darn good. I can't believe I timed that way. Yay! So I hope a few of those gave you a little bit of a laugh for our Laugh Saturday. Thank you to our very own Crystal M for suggesting stories from the ER. We'll definitely be doing this next Saturday, our next first Saturday, which would be September. And I think that is going to be our 1-year anniversary or close to it. Can you believe it? Since we started this, we are well over 18 months at this point in time of, let's see, Oh my God, you guys, my computer died. Oh, I didn't realize that I was not plugged in and my computer actually died. I'm like so thankful you guys were actually still here by the time I came back. Oh, well, I figured if you guys were all gone, that was the end of the show anyway. So, hi, Anik, how you doing? I hope you're doing well today. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, the stream doesn't die just when my computer dies because I couldn't turn it off. So that was my bad. Yeesaw. Okay. Yeah, very well timed battery. Ay ay ay. Anyways, guys. Oh my gosh, and I didn't why did no one tell me? I have my trigger. Did I have my trigger warning going this whole time? I didn't think so. Well, that's bad on me. This is the last show that needs a trigger warning. I don't want any trigger warnings for this particular one. So, well, that is the show for today. If you guys have any input on future shows that you want to see, please like and subscribe before you exit. If you could, if you can comment after the show, or if you're watching on replay, if you could just shoot a quick comment up, even if it's just to say you're watching on replay. The more comments we get on shows, the more the algorithm will push the shows out. Okay. And so with that, I'll see you on Wednesday. If you've got any other show ideas that you want to see happen for August, I do have a couple of guests that I'm planning on having on. I haven't gotten dates for them locked in yet. So once I do, I'll discuss that a little bit more specifically. I am going to be on Echo's show. I've been on her show before, and I think that's like the 24th of April, something like that. So not for a few weeks. So I'll remind you guys, and I'll probably be broadcasting it from here as well. She is doing a series on childhood trauma and wants to speak with me about that as well. So we'll be doing that in a few weeks. Remember, the 15th, we'll be doing our fundraiser, the GoFundMe fundraiser for the book launch. And we'll have, I think we've got at least 3 or 4 different YouTubers who are going to be on with us. And so that should be a lot of fun. Like I said, as soon as I get the time nailed down for that, which I should be getting that set in stone here in the next week. And I will post that up on the community post, as well as I'll let you guys know about it on here. So if you can share that out on any of your social media, that is a very, very, very much appreciated. And I hope you can join us for that fundraiser. Even if you can't donate, that's totally fine. It just should be a lot of fun. It's going to be one of those shows where we're not going to be doing our normal Surviving Together trauma talk or anything of that nature. I do think I'm going to do another trauma talk show here, probably coming up maybe Wednesday or maybe next Saturday. That seemed to go over fairly well. So I'll be pulling some more stories from either the CPTSD subreddit or one of the other mental health. I think there's just a childhood trauma, or just a trauma subreddit as well. And if you guys come across any stories that you think would be good questions that would be good to address, that you see on any of the subreddit threads, please feel free to send those over to me as well. So with that, enjoy our outro, guys. Remember that you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are, for who you are. Hugs and love from me. We shall see you Wednesday at 6 p.m. Surviving together, never alone. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Mm.